People who have actually had sex with a step relative, what was the aftermath? The outcome was dramatic and incredibly tragic. I had a colleague once who drunkenly confessed to sleeping with her stepbrother. Eventually, it developed into a serious relationship. Her parents got to know and desperately tried to get them to break up. Colleague ended up dating her stepbro in secret. It's an open secret in the office at this point. Awkward, because the stepdad was also in upper management. Anyway, her parents find out again and try to get them to break up a second time. It all gets rather public and ugly and quite embarrassing for her mom and stepdad, who are now senior figures in the industry running their own company. Colleague tells us that she's been given ultimatums from her mom. Doesn't describe what they are. Suddenly, she stops showing up to work and emails her resignation. She tells HR that she's moving to the US to find some peace. Colleague also texts some folk at work to tell them that she's had enough of the drama and moving away. A few weeks pass and there's no news from her until her stepbro/boyfriend starts contacting all her work friends. I wasn't contacted, but some of my teammates were. Stepbro is desperately trying to get in touch with her. She's broken up with him via text. He wants to know if anyone's heard from her. He doesn't believe that she now lives in the US and that she'd go without telling him. Everyone writes him off as a guy who couldn't handle the rejection, until he goes to the police and files a missing persons case. Police actually made a few inquiries, to everyone's surprise. It doesn't happen often because they usually gaffe. This is still a developing country after all. In the end, the cops write the stepbro off as a lovesick loon and everything settles down. For a while at least. Stepbro has gone crazy, now claiming that he thinks something bad happened to her. Says he's fallen out with his parents over it. No one at work wants to get involved in this family drama, especially since the parents are important people. Things die down again, until they don't. Fast forward 2 years and no one's heard from our colleague, until the cops come calling. They've arrested her mom's chauffeur on an unrelated charge and he confesses to murdering our colleague. Even leads them to the body. He doesn't, however, reveal a motive. He must have been stalking her, think the police, until they investigate further. Our colleague never went to the US. Turns out the emails she sent weren't from her either. They were sent after her death. The texts, the emails, and the breakup were all from her mom. She covered her tracks after she orchestrated the murder of her own daughter. All because she wouldn't stop dating her stepbrother and was going to marry him. Sorry for the bad grammar. English isn't my first language. I'd forgotten some details. The colleague's mom always had a strained relationship with her daughter. At social events, she often claimed to be her sister, though everyone knew it wasn't true. I think bio dad was also involved in the murder somehow. The whole thing was one giant clusterfuck. My parents used to be step-siblings. My mom was 6, dad was 12 when my mom's mom married my dad's dad. My dad lived with his mom primarily though, and they never spent much time together. I think my grandparents were married for 6 to 10 years or something like that before they divorced. When my mom was about 20, dad was 26 and he asked her out. They've been married for like 35 years. The complicated bit is that I have an aunt that was born from the marriage of my maternal grandmother and paternal grandfather. So my parents share a half-sibling. But they're no longer step-siblings. Also, guys, there are plenty of other southern hillbilly-ass states aside from Alabama, unless I'm missing a reference to something. That being said, every generation beneath my great-grandparents on both sides has been born and raised in CA. Although funnily enough, my aunt did move to a southern state when she got married. I like to joke that she complicates the family tree, so they kicked her out. My sister gave our stepbrother a blowjob on one end of our wraparound couch, with our grandmother asleep on the other end. Spoiler alert, she woke up. We had some fucked up family dynamics. What happened when she woke up? My grandmom woke up mid-job, smacked my sister on the back of the head with her slipper, they sprung apart and ran away without saying a word, and the next morning everyone just acted like nothing ever happened. As far as I know, my grandmother never said a word about it to anyone. Where was I? I was in bed, sneakily reading Aragon and none the wiser, until my sister told me the next morning. I think these two instances perfectly encapsulate who we both were as a person, lol, and still are tbh. Our parents got remarried later in life when we were already grown adults. We're both only children, so having siblings was a new experience for us, but we wanted it to work if only for the family's sake. In an effort to grow closer, we decided to go drinking one night, a few months after we met for the first time. She ended up crashing at my place. I offered to take the couch and give her the bed, but she insisted we sleep together in that weird feet-to-head setup. My drunk ass promptly went to sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to find us spooning, and me with a serious erection poking her ass. I froze. I didn't know how I got there, what was going on, or how I was going to get out of this gracefully. I had just decided to extricate myself slowly in the hopes that I didn't wake her when it happened. Wiggle wiggle. She started wiggling her ass against me. On instinct, I started bucking. Tap tap. Wiggle wiggle tap tap. There was only one way to go from there. We went out that night intending to become closer, mission accomplished. We fucked a few times a week for 5 to 6 months before we both met other people. In that time we became very close, telling each other our fears, secrets, and generally being what you think of as brother and sister. Except for that other thing. Friends have remarked about how close we are, especially for how short a time it's been. Turns out, there's a shortcut for that. You'd think that would be the end of the story, but instead of going our separate ways with the new people in our lives, we ended up realizing we had fallen hard for each other. Now we're dating and trying to figure out how to tell our parents, family, and friends. Might not have that problem for too much longer though. The last time her dad came into the living room where we were hanging out, well, first he knocked. A guy I knew, while we were both early teens, had a huge crush on a girl who was a close friend of his family. His parents were church friends with her parents. Then, her parents both died in a car accident, and his parents had agreed to adopt her if such an incident were ever to occur. His mom was kinda weird and made him start calling her sister, and none of his family knew he was head over heels in love with this girl, or if they suspected a crush they pretended not to. What they for sure didn't know, because his parents would have disowned him, was that by high school, they were secretly banging almost every night. I lost touch with them during high school, and I want to know what ended up happening with them so badly it drives me crazy to think about. Edit, to the million people asking me to track them down now, I tried years ago but literally the only thing I have to go off of is his name. We only hung out for a few years, and it was because my mom and his mom were work friends who hung out outside of work a lot during that time. I don't know what school he went to or what church they went to. I don't remember his school friends' names. I'm only about 70% sure I'm even remembering the girl's name correctly. The only avenue I could think of exploring is asking my mom what her former co-worker's name is or if she remembers where they moved to, but that's a really weird question to bring up 15 years later, so I don't really plan on going that route. I just gave his name another search, but it's a fairly common name and without more to go off of it's sort of impossible to find a match on social media. Sorry to disappoint. Throwaway because this story is not going on my main account. My dad remarried when I was in my teens and my stepmother's daughter moved in shortly thereafter. She was the same age I was. We weren't super friendly, but as a horny teenager she was the object of many fantasies. We did not do much, but I did give her back rubs a couple times and she let me feel her up. She never let it go farther. Until I came home to visit after moving out. We were hanging out one night, at home, my dad and her MO asleep, and she basically decided she wanted to get laid. So we fucked. It was far from her first time but it was mine. We hooked up again a few months later when she came to visit me, but then she ran off with the guy that ended being her first baby daddy. Aftermath? Nothing happened again after that. When I met my first serious girlfriend, who knew how I had lost my virginity, my stepsister started acting jealous. That was awkward, but it was easier to deal with once my stepsister and her mom had a falling out and stopped talking. To the best of my knowledge, my dad and her stepmother never found out what their kids had gotten up to. By the way, the rumors that my stepsister was in porn videos are completely false. I mean, I've seen the videos, but those rumors are still false. This is the first time I have ever told anyone this. Got a double response. A while ago I was at my cousin's wedding. Not in the party but a guest. My direct genetic extended family is tiny as none of us have done much breeding. My adopted cousin was seeing a guy in the military and deployed. I've had a crush on her for like ever, but she had never seemed to return it. After the festivities, everyone is at a rented lake house and drinking. She's out of her bridesmaid dress and wearing something fit for clubbing. She has been lamenting her loneliness since the prior day's rehearsal. I've been keeping her company to be nice. Nothing weird. Then after a beer she says how drunk she is and takes me by the hand to the boathouse. She takes out her tits and says she just needs a man right now. I get her drift. I ask about her guy. She says to not worry and just have fun. So here I am with a pretty girl with her tots out, who I've crushed on forever, and she's inviting me to my one chance to fuck her. I refuse. I tell her I won't play Jody to her fiancé. She got really mad and stormed off. I refused, but holy hell, I so wanted to fuck her. Second story, same wedding. Uncle has wife he married from overseas. She's Asian Islander and has several sisters, all also there. I hit it off with the youngest sister, early 30s, petite, Asian looking, generous ass for her frame. Come the after party, we are getting hammered. She stumbles and asks me to be a nice young man and help her. We end up fucking in someone's bedroom, not even bothering to get properly undressed. Unprotected, stupid, I know, but it was hot. We banged again when there was a family gathering 9 months later. We sexed and have resolved it's just for fun, though I would not be opposed to openly romancing her. I see her a few times a year and we fuck. Nobody else knows, and I imagine the secret getting out would make it end in tears. Would recommend, though.